Not only are we going through the top 30 running backs today in my personal rankings, but I'm also going to compare my rankings and how they line up on Underdog Fantasy Football right now to see if we can score some values in the meantime before the NFL Draft inevitably shakes some things up. So number one here is going to be Christian McCaffrey. And he's, of course, number one on Underdog. There's really not much to talk about here. Everybody understands the upside of Christian McCaffrey is so freaking sky high. Nobody really has to tell anybody else that. If you know fantasy football, you know Christian McCaffrey's fantasy upside, again, in 2024 is ridiculous. And at number two here, I've got Bijan Robinson in the same tier, and he's the running back 2 on Underdog as well. So I think people are starting to kind of catch on to this idea that Bijan Robinson is just in such a better position now that he doesn't have Arthur Smith there trying to divide up the backfield for whatever freaking reason. Bijan Robinson doesn't need that. I'm fully on board with a 300 opportunity season for Bijan Robinson, both through targets and on the ground rushing. And I think everybody's on board with this whole thing, and that's exemplified by his running back 2 price and Underdog. Now, the reason I've got him in the same tier as McCaffrey is not because I think he's as good as Christian McCaffrey. The reason he's on here with Christian McCaffrey is simply because I believe he has that potential to get to that level. At number 3 and 4, I've got Kiron Williams and Breece Hall. Now, Kiron Williams is the running back 5 on Underdog, and Breece is the running back 3. So again, we're still basically staying in line with Underdog. There's a little bit of minute changes, a little details that we could discuss here. Because for me personally, I think Kiron Williams proved himself in a big way in 2023. And I think that maybe the hesitancy people are having is that it's a new face to the running back room. He's not like, they didn't have like high draft capital attached to him. I don't really understand the reason why, because I was never big on Kiron Williams before he broke out. But he proved himself. I mean, he was too elite. The numbers speak for themselves on the screen. He was too elite to not want to get again. And they was also just too elite for them to make any sort of movement at the running back position here in this upcoming draft. So I don't think we're in danger of Kiron Williams losing his job. And then Breece at number 4 is just simply in a position where, yes, he was a top 5 back last year. And Breece Hall is gonna be basically, like, I think he'll have a very similar season. First of all, Breece Hall is an elite talent. He proved that last year, and really he proved it his rookie year before he went down to injury. But last year, I think that he saw so many excess targets because of the garbage they had at quarterback. They couldn't push the ball down the field, so he was left getting a lot of dump-offs. If Rodgers is even 80% of what he used to be before the Achilles injury in Green Bay, there may be some less, like one less target a game. Like he'll still get opportunities out of the pass because he's so effective in the pass, but I doubt he'll see the exact number of targets. But either way, the efficiency goes up if Aaron Rodgers is 80% of what he used to be. So it kind of cancels each other out right there. We're even Steven. Breece Hall is going to be great again this year. Zamir Gibbs at 5 and Jonathan Taylor at 6. So Zamir Gibbs, the running back 4 on Underdog. Jonathan Taylor's the running back 7. So again, not any big disagreements here between me and the Underdog rankings that other people create basically just based on how they're drafting and who they're drafting first in these fantasy drafts so far. So Zamir Gibbs, I think that the ceiling is probably top 3 maybe. But my thing with Zamir Gibbs is just don't forget that David Montgomery is still there. And not only is he still there, they're not just going to put him on the bench. They signed him to a 3-year, $18 million deal just 1 year ago, and he played very well on the first year of that deal, in which they guaranteed over half of the value of the total contract to David Montgomery. He's not just going to the bench. It'll be pretty similar to what they ended the season like, where Zamir Gibbs is basically getting almost the amount of carries as Montgomery is, but he's also getting more targets on top of it. So yes, he'll be elite in fantasy. And then Jonathan Taylor at 6, just in a situation where I just trust the system. I trust the offensive line the Colts have. I trust the coaching. I think their coaching offensively is elite. It's top tier in the league. Shane Steichen, great offensive mind. And with the running quarterback, Anthony Richardson, all kinds of historical data shows that running quarterbacks produce effective, efficient running backs in fantasy football. Jonathan Taylor, fully healthy season. I think it's all go, go, go from here. Josh Jacobs at 7 and Devon at 8. So this is where I've had my first real big change from the last time I did these running back rankings just about a month ago. But again, we're basically in line with underdog. I've got Josh Jacobs 2 spots above where his underdog ranking is, the running back 9. And Devon Achane is exactly where he is in underdog in my rankings. So Josh Jacobs, I think that people understand this, that the contract indicates that they're going to use him a ton. The contract is massive. They're going to use him a bunch. And Josh Jacobs also is just in a much better situation than he was with Las Vegas last year. Better offensive line, better head coaching staff, better offensive coaching, and also better weapons around him that'll open up the run game as well. So Josh Jacobs to me is an elite pick. I've already been picking him a ton in underdog fantasy football drafts. And then Devon Achane, I decided to split up the 2 Dolphins running backs because I think that these free agent signings with these new guys are going to be better, like a Josh Jacobs, like a Saquon Barkley at 9. But if I had to pick the one, I'd probably pick Achane just because I think he's more explosive at this point in his career. Like, those numbers on the screen, opportunities-wise, that's the hardest part about ranking Achane, is because he doesn't get many opportunities last year, but he was so freaking effective on everything he got. So it's like, can his body withstand if they give him 3-4 more opportunities per game? We'll have to see, but I know the fantasy upside is there. And like I said, Saquon at number 9 and Derrick Henry at number 10 here. So here's my reasoning for why these guys are lower than you may think that they should be. Saquon's the running back 6 on underdog, and Derrick Henry is the running back 10 on underdog. So with both of these guys, they're obviously both in not the prime of their career anymore because Saquon's upper 20s and Derrick Henry's 30 now. So they're obviously not at the prime of their career. But they're both obviously unique athletes that have been tremendous in fantasy in the past. Now, I love their situations, both of them. I think that they'll be very effective. I think they'll both be very efficient. And I think they will carry the load for their offense. The problem is they both have running quarterbacks who will take away from their rushing touchdown total. You think about the Baltimore Ravens, Gus Edwards, last year, J.K. Dobbins for previous years. Those running backs didn't have as many rushing touchdowns because Lamar was taking them. Eagles running backs, Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift last year, their ceiling is lower because they have running quarterbacks who can get in on the end zone. So the difference here between guys like Jonathan Taylor and these 2 guys, Saquon and Derrick Henry, with the running quarterback he has in Indianapolis, is I think that Jonathan Taylor is in the prime of his career where he's still more prone to break off a big play and get a big long touchdown than Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry are at the point of this career. James Cook at 11 and Raheem Mostert at number 12. So James Cook's the running back 12 on underdog, and Raheem Mostert, this is my first biggest disagreement with underdog, the running back 22 on underdog. So long story short, I think Raheem Mostert is an excellent value. But for James Cook in particular, what I like about it is that he's dealing with the offensive coordinator who had him break out in the second half of 2023. He's got Joe Brady calling the plays now. They also don't have a clear wide receiver 1 right now. So James Cook, the opportunity for him to get more targets than he got last year, I would say it's pretty high. James Cook is their, at this point, best offensive playmaker outside of the quarterback. So James Cook, I think he's going to be just as involved. The question I really wonder with him is that, can his body withstand, 30 opportunities per game? Because it could withstand like 20 to 15. We understand that. He's proven that. He proved it last year. Can he sustain 30? And I don't think that he probably can. So I think his ceiling is probably capped around this area. And then a guy like Raheem Mostert, I don't understand this. I've discussed it on other videos. I think you should draft Raheem Mostert right now today using code FFN to get a 100% deposit match up to $100 so you can get in multiple drafts and draft Raheem Mostert all of those times. I've drafted him so much this offseason already because I don't understand the price here. This is an excellent value at the running back 22. He's my running back 12 because I've discussed this throughout the offseason. Running backs in duo backfields, right? Like the Detroit Lions, we'll talk about the other running back in Detroit. The Miami Dolphins. I think the Tennessee Titans might have a little bit of that. The Pittsburgh Steelers. The likelihood that running back systems that are very effective at the zone running scheme, or whether it's just splitting carries between 2 guys, the likelihood that two running backs on the same team will finish inside the top 30 to top 25 are way higher than they used to be because more and more teams are using the two running back system more effectively. Mostert and Anan, they're both injury prone, but yet they both keep each other fresh for more efficiency because Miami knows how to use that zone running scheme. So they signed Raheem Mostert to a new 2-year deal this offseason. I think this is money for Raheem Mostert once again, and I'm factoring in some touchdown negative regression. That's why he's at number 12 though. Isaiah Pacheco at 13 and Travis Etienne at 14. Pacheco's the running back 14 on Underdog, and Travis Etienne's the running back 11. So with Pacheco, everything is basically the same, right? Kansas City is steady Eddie, and they're just elite, obviously, so it's like we take it for granted how elite this offense is run. He's continuing to be an important piece of this backfield. Now, I'm leaving the possibility that they draft someone this particular weekend here. I don't think it's a sure thing, but I do think that it's possibly in the cards. Their backup right now is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I don't think that they'll draft someone to just replace Isaiah Pacheco outright, but I think that there's room here for them to draft a 3rd round, 4th round running back to maybe split some opportunities here with Pacheco, and that kind of leaves me wondering how stable his fantasy value is right now. And then with Etienne, it's the opposite of last year. I was telling you guys, draft Etienne last year, and it paid off a lot, especially in the first season. I don't feel that way about Etienne this year. I think he peaked last year. I do. I think Etienne peaked, and if you had him last year, you got the best of him. Look, Doug Peterson, the head coach of Jacksonville, has already come out this offseason and said, we want to limit his opportunities. The reason why is because when you gave him all those opportunities last year, his efficiency dropped from his rookie season. He wasn't as efficient. So he's probably best served with a running back too, who comes in and occasionally takes 5 to 10 opportunities per game from Travis Etienne. That's where he's best served at, and that's what they're probably going to do. So I think his ceiling is just capped. And you take away some of those touchdowns last year, this is around the range that I see him at. David Montgomery at 15 and Rashad White at 16. David Montgomery, I think, is a great value again. Draft him today using code FFN. You're going to get a great player again. I don't understand why people don't like him. He's the running back 19 on Underdog, and Rashad White's the running back 13. Montgomery, I don't get it. I really don't. He's there. He's on a mostly guaranteed deal. He was effective for them last year. Why would they just put him on the bench? It makes no sense. The NFL doesn't work that way. They gave the dude a contract. He's going to play it out because he's playing effectively. It's not the Russell Wilson situation where they guaranteed him a bunch of money and he was garbage. David Montgomery was effective for them last year. Zamir Gibbs is probably best served with David Montgomery there. So yes, draft David Montgomery again because this offense is intact. Offensive line is still great. The offensive coordinator's still there. He's great. Quarterback's still intact. David Montgomery's another smash pick this year to me. Rashad White at 16. I don't have a problem with people picking him at running back 13. Like, he obviously showed a top 10 running back ceiling in 2023. I just can't get fully on board with Rashad White. I can't get over the lack of efficiency. Yes, the targets, the opportunities to rushing were there last year, but this guy just simply wasn't very effective. He just wasn't. Rashad White, I like him. I would take him around that range maybe a couple times, but do I think that he's going to be some massive steal this year? I don't personally, because I just don't believe that a player with 2 years straight, less than 4 yards per carry, is going to continue to evolve as he gets closer to age 26. Now, Joe Mixon is at 17 and Alvin Kamara is at 18. So we got two of our older guys right here heading towards the back nine, on the back nine of their career. Definitely almost done. Mixon's the running back 15 on Underdog, and Alvin Kamara is the running back 17. So with Joe Mixon getting traded to the Houston Texans, I think was a good thing. Ultimately, more so for the Texans though, because the Texans, their offensive line is definitely getting better, but the Bengals offensive line, as weak as they were defend against the pass rush, their run offensive line was very good. They could run the football. And Joe Mixon, I know he's part of that. At this point in his career, late 20s, I wonder the effectiveness level he'll see, especially in a pass-first offense that he thrived in Cincinnati. But It's a relatively similar situation, so I think he'll be good still. But again, a year older now, I just worry about the effectiveness level that he'll have. And then with Kamara, same type of deal. Wondering what the effectiveness level will be. Now, what he did last year when he played was great. It was great in fantasy, especially if you drafted him last year because he was going so freaking late. I don't feel the same way I did last year about his price because I think it's more accurate. It's right in line with what I believe with. So Kamara, I think, will be effective again. And I think that he'll ultimately be still important to the offense, but I think they'll probably start wanting to go in a different direction this year. Kenneth Walker at 19 and Tony Pollard at running back 20. So Kenneth Walker, running back 16 on Underdog. And Tony Pollard, I think, is a relatively decent value right now because he's the running back 23 on Underdog. So Kenneth Walker, I think that everybody understands. The only concern we really have with him is the Zach Charbonnet factor. If they never drafted Zach Charbonnet, we wouldn't be talking about him this low. He'd be higher on the list because he's talented. He's shown that he's talented. The opportunities will be capped, though. And now another year with Zach Charbonnet probably shows me that there's going to be some more emphasis on getting him the ball as well. So Kenneth Walker, I think his ceiling is just kind of capped with Zach Charbonnet there. But I still do think that he'll be very efficient, very effective, and probably provide you some massive 30-point games at some point. And then with Tony Pollard, this is me simply saying to here, I think the Tennessee Titans offense is such a sleeper this year. Think of the changes that they've made. Mike Vrabel, a coach I really like a lot, they pushed him aside for an offensive-minded head coach and said, if we want to fix this offense, we want it to be powerful. So they've got the quarterback who has upside, but he's not obviously there yet. Now they've got two running backs who have relatively similar skill set. One of them is more effective at this point of his career, probably, and their offensive line is garbage. Hopefully they address that at the draft. With the wide receivers taking some pressure off the running backs here, I have belief that Tony Pollard can have a big year, so I would recommend drafting him today on Underdog, again, before the price changes. Because if they go offensive line, 2 of the first 3 picks, I could see people starting to show some interest in having these Titans running backs and going a little bit higher. James Conner at 21 and Aaron Jones at 22. James Conner is the running back 20 on Underdog, and Aaron Jones is the running back 18 on Underdog. With Aaron Jones, I just think that people are overvaluing him because he's the only one in Minnesota, basically. Like, you've got Aaron Jones and you've got Ty Chandler. Obviously, Aaron Jones is the better player. My biggest problem with him is I just think that his body is betraying him. He's in his late 20s now. The guy is almost 30. And last year, he was great when he played. But you just have to use this guy sparingly or else he's going to get injured. It just isn't working anymore with Aaron Jones in a full-time capacity. So just because of the opportunities being capped, his ceiling will be capped in fantasy. And then with James Conner, there's really not much to say because it's all kind of the same. They may draft someone. He's in his late 20s as well. But based on last year, like, the dude was still effective. You can see the efficiency level on the screen right now. This guy is still effective. So it's hard to just kind of push him aside and say, move out of the way, James Conner. They haven't traded him. Maybe they do trade him at some point. But James Conner, if he sticks in Arizona, and if they get another wide receiver to take some more pressure off of the pass game, off of the run game, I think James Conner could easily have another top 15 running back season. My big surprise this year. We see a surprise every year. I'm going with Trey Benson at 23. And then DeAndre Swift at 24. Trey Benson, the running back 29 on Underdog. And DeAndre Swift, the running back 25 on Underdog. Trey Benson, rookie out of Florida State. This guy is hitting the size metrics at 6 foot, 216 pounds, ran a sub 4.4 40 time. Those two things combined show that he has the size to be a 3-down bell cow, and he has the speed to hit holes, and he hits that metric because speed with running backs is a direct correlation to fantasy football success, as 10 out of the 12 running backs who finished as top 12 running backs this year in fantasy all ran a 4.49 or faster. There's a direct speed correlation there. We don't know where he's going yet. I'm banking on this guy because I think he'll be the first running back off the board, and I think he can make an immediate impact wherever drafts him. Cincinnati, looking at you. And then DeAndre Swift, looks like the running back 1 in Chicago. Their offense is improved. They're going to get a new quarterback. I just don't see much of a ceiling here, though, because DeAndre Swift has just for years been underwhelming. And even in a great situation in Philadelphia last year, he was underwhelming. So it's just like, I don't know how you can put much faith in DeAndre Swift. I think he'll be fine, but I think that running back 20 is probably around where his ceiling is. Tyjae Spears at 25 and Najee Harris at 26. Tyjae Spears is another great value. I'm putting stock in the Tennessee Titans on underdog because he's the running back 35 there. And Najee Harris is the running back 24 on underdog. So again, my belief is that I think that the Tennessee Titans offense is a big sleeper offense. I think there's a lot of viable fantasy options in Tennessee right now. I think Tyjae Spears could easily be a top 25, top 20 running back because, like I said with Miami, it's very similar. I have a belief that Tennessee's head coach, their offensive guy now, is going to bring a zone-style running scheme to Tennessee. And if you keep both of those guys fresh, the upside can be lethal. So with Tyjae Spears, he was efficient last year with his opportunities. He looked good. He's getting in his second year in their system. I think Tyjae Spears absolutely could be a massive value. And again, I would draft him today. And then Najee Harris, I think he'll be the better one of the two between him and Jaylen Warren, but I don't think it's that far off. You'll see Jaylen Warren at the end of these rankings here. Najee is just in a situation now where he's like, you've got Arthur Smith as your offensive coordinator. I think he's best served as an offensive coordinator. The Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line is improving, and he's just unexciting. Number 27, Javonte Williams and Ramondre Stevenson at 28. So Javonte is at running back 27 on underdog, right in line. And then Ramondre, I think, is way overvalued at underdog. Running back 21 there. Javonte, I think every opportunity should be there for him this year, man. It's like the guy is the best one there by far. He's got the most name recognition. He'll probably get every opportunity. I just can't get over what I saw last year. Last year, he was so underwhelming. It was just a horrific efficiency year. He was not finding the end zone. Like, it was just bad. It was just a bad season for Javonte Williams. Do I think that there's a chance that he could be better? Yeah, of course I do, because I also remember that he was coming off a pretty severe knee injury. So it's like maybe that played a part. I don't know what to do other than rank him down here at the low 20s right here. And then Ramondre, I don't get it. Honestly, I think I'm out on a limb on this one. Ramondre Stevenson, I think, is just playing on an awful team. I think there's optimism around the league, around, you know, the Patriots fan base, that the Patriots will be better. I don't think so. I really don't. I think they're in for a bad year. And if it's similar to last year, Ramondre just won't have many opportunities. History has shown us that running backs on bottom 7, bottom 8 teams, their fantasy upside is very limited because they're just not scoring many points. There's not as many opportunities in the red zone. There's not as much moving the ball down the field. I think Ramondre is going to have a similar problem, unfortunately, because I actually like the player a lot. And then Zamir White at 29 and Jaylen Warren at 30 rounding it out. Zamir White, running back 31 on underdog, and Jaylen Warren, the running back 26 on underdog. So Zamir White, if everything stands, they don't draft a running back, it's Zamir White's show. I could easily see that being the case because you think about what happened at the end of the year. Pierce became their head coach, Antonio Pierce, and when Josh Jacobs wasn't available, Zamir White was getting all the work, and he was effective doing it. So maybe Antonio Pierce really liked what he saw from Zamir, and he's going to say, all right, we're going to give you the opportunity. Go ahead, show us what you got. I could easily see that being the case, more than, for example, I could see being the case in Cincinnati with Chase Brown. I don't see it there. I could see it in Las Vegas. So I've got him at 29 for now. And then Jaylen Warren at 30. Again, I think that it's very likely that the Pittsburgh Steelers have 2 running backs inside the top 30. Jaylen Warren is the lightning bolt. He's obviously more efficient. He's more effective with his opportunities as a whole. I think he has more upside in fantasy football. But I think his opportunities will be more limited because he's just not the big machine carry back that Najee Harris is. So let me know what you think of these rankings in the comments below. And make sure you drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel to show your support if you got value from this video today.